fellow once said to me, the best fertiliser for your vines is your shadow.
Yeah. G'day and welcome to the Farms Advice podcast with your host, Jack Creswell. Whether you farm it, service it, or just love it, this podcast is for you. We'll bring you the techniques and technologies you can implement into your day straight from the leaders and innovators themselves. Spread the Farms Advice so that we can reach more farmers right across Australia. Follow us on all of your socials at Farms Advice, and let's get into this episode.
Who was a viticulturist for Philip Shaw.
Yep.
And his wife taught at the kids' school. He came over and did a plan for us, and he did soil tests, and then he gave us the plan, and he said, plant in November, you've got 5 years to learn about it. And so it was a terrific journey for 5 years learning, enrolled in every course there was.
Yep. What courses were they?
There were short courses at the Orange Ag College that were run by Stephen Doyle.
Yeah.
And they were just courses on soil health, on shoot positioning, on trellis building and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Irrigation. And so we did all that. But the most important, the most successful way to learn is to catch up with your peers all the time.
100%.
If I get a disease, Stephen Doyle's going to get it too. So it's in his interest and my interest that we find anything on a leaf, we compare it, we get together.
Yeah.
And that started off then, we had a meeting on the first Monday of every month, and we had 5 or 6 in first instance.
Yeah.
And then after 12 months, we pretty much covered a full growing season, so we had everything pretty much nailed. But that became a bit boring, so then from then on we started to bring a bottle of wine in a brown paper bag as well. And that added a lot more colour to it.
Yeah.
And so then we went on to the phase of where we were analysing each other's wines, not knowing which was ours and whose wine we were tasting. We had this score sheet, and you could be honest without being hurtful because you didn't put your name on it. So we collected them at the end of the day and we went through them.
Good old anonymous.
Yeah, and it was really good. It made everyone concentrate on what aspects were most liked, what was successful, what were... and if we found a wine that was outstanding, we'd open the bottle, we'd pull it out of the bag, and we'd ask the person who made that wine to run through the process. Yeah. So we don't want to be clones. Yeah. But there are little tricks you can pick up. Most of your wine success is made in the vineyard. There's no question about that. But there's a few little tricks you can do afterwards that can enhance the wine's exposure to the clientele.
There's so many questions we could go off what you just said, but starting off with your soil, it starts in the vineyard to make your wine as we've got here today. But what have you done anything to the soil?
Okay. What happened was over here we've got loam over clay. And Chardonnay and a few other varieties like that sort of soil. On the far hill we've got a shale ridge running through, and it's rocky and it drains well, but the roots have to fight hard to get down. And so therefore it's suited to the bolder varieties of reds like Shiraz, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir. So that was the advice that we got from Ian Manchester, and we followed that. And then we put dolomite into the soil, and he gave us a program to make sure that we deep ripped each row so the roots had a chance of getting away in the first instance. And then we also detected which way they should run with regards to exposure to the sunshine and also drainage from excessive rain. So all those things come into account. We did some soil tests. There was a few nutrients we put into the ground, either through the dripper line or else we sowed it into the ground when we cultivated. But the most important thing was lime or dolomite to break up the acidity and give the vines a good chance of getting started.
You were talking about your travel overseas before, but if you look at the vineyards in Italy, Spain, they're all sort of on these rocky, shaly sort of sides of the hills and everything, and that must be sort of quite similar here in Orange as well.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of varying soil types across the country. Let alone New South Wales, let alone Orange. There's different ones in Orange. Basalt soils up on the volcano, And so it's a matter of just, and the Department of Primary Industries are fantastic at researching and doing their soil maps. And so you get an analysis of your soils, and then they can recommend to you what plants over thousands of years have adapted best to that soil type.
Yeah, right. So in the initial stages, like I read your website, you started out with 45 acres, and that's what you remain with today?
That's what we remain with today. If we need more than that, we can actually lease some rows really from vineyards at the same altitude with the same soil type. And as long as we pick them and we make the wine, it's considered ours.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like what I want to understand or tell and educate people, like 45 acres, it isn't really much in the grand scheme of things, but what you've done, you've turned it around. You've got your vineyard, agritourism, wine clubs, as Dan was saying before.
Yeah.
How did you shift from footy into going as a vineyardist?
Well, we did it first of all just to get enough grapes to sell the grapes to contribute to the kids' education.
Yeah.
After 5 years, we sold grapes to First Creek in the Hunter Valley, and they kindly, at the end of the year, gave us back a case of Chardonnay with their name on it. In other words, it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
We thought, come on, we're getting into the wine industry now. We can grow the grapes okay. And from that point on, it's been a wonderful journey for the whole family. The kids learnt so much about grapes they didn't realise they learnt it until they left and got their own careers in other areas.
Yeah.
And then people are talking in their adolescent or the senior years, senior teenage years, about grapes. And the kids knew all the answers to everything, and they were sort of cult heroes.
Yeah.
And then they realised that all the work they'd put in their junior lives actually enhanced their knowledge of this industry.
Yeah.
They could go anywhere in the world now and hold down a job. They could go right round the world and hold down a job during vintage or pruning or whatever, and work their way around the world doing that.
Actually, I went through Portugal whilst I was over in Europe and could have got a job pruning in the vineyards over there. One of those things I just sort of miss out on that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But for yourself, I asked Dan this, but what skills did you bring into from footy, that routine? Was there a routine back in the 80s for footy players to bring your skills into ag and wanting to work hard and start your own vineyard?
Yeah, it is. It's the same. It's preparation.
Yep.
It's learning.
Yep.
It's discipline.
But you probably had your mentor across the road as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you got to apply the same disciplines.
Yep.
If a grape needs to be, if a vineyard needs to be sprayed now, it's now, not tomorrow because it's convenient. Or not tomorrow afternoon. It's now. So you've got to be able to drop what you're doing and attend to the health of the vines. And a fellow once said to me, the best fertiliser for your vines is your shadow.
Yeah.
And he's dead right. If you're over the fruit all the time, you can pay attention to detail. Same as if you're playing footy and you know you're coming up against someone with a left foot step, you take that into account. You know where he's going to step to and you'll nail him as soon as he tries it. So those little things, preparation is really important.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Dan's increased it or something, or COVID's increased it, agritourism and bringing people through front of house to sell your bottles of wine, but also telling the Mortimer's story. It's a pretty cool background coming from footy. I don't know, do people recognise you much these days still?
They recognise Daniel more these days, actually. But the Mortimers have got a good name through my brother Stephen and Chris, and we all played in the same club at the same time, and it's a good story.
Yeah.
So we're best to capitalise on that if we can, because the next generation came through, and then Daniel's part of that. And it's a very much a family atmosphere down the front there, because we've got 11 grandchildren, and they're all here last weekend. People love that.
Yeah.
And so we tell our own story without being conceited or bragging, and people like to become part of it.
Yeah.
And like the kids. Like from the time Robbie was only 1 and Michael was 11, the kids have been part of it, so they're not making it up.
Yeah.
They can answer any question you got for them.
Well, Dan was saying before, probably 90% of the work you do on farm as a family business, rather than like the picking, you need a few hands in to come and do that.
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day operation look like? Your routine?
To manage the vineyard, so if the trellis needs splitting the canvas, and I've got to do that. We always get people into prune, but I supervise that.
Yeah.
And then we always get people in to pick, because that's got to be done within 12 hours of the time where the acid and the pH is in good balance, and where the flavour, but also the sugar level is at its peak. If you pick it at exactly the right time, there's more things you can do with the fruit to enhance it. So if you leave it for 2 or 3 days, you get a stewed character.
Yeah.
If you pick it early, you get a crunchy character, and it's just not quite right. So we're tiny, we can do it because we're tiny. But all the rest of it, slashing, irrigation, shoot positioning, all that sort of stuff, I do that because I just enjoy getting on the tractor at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, poking down over that hill, looking over the dam, and a bit of mist on the dam, and I think, this is my office.
A terrible spot to be.
It's bloody beautiful.
Yeah.
Hear the magpies start to wake up, and it's lovely.
And you mentioned before, like, once you got your vineyards up and established, you're not actually irrigating unless you go through a dry period. Run me through that, how that sort of works to keep the vines looking pretty healthy.
Yeah, well, when we start, you've got to have water, you've got to have irrigation. The vines have got to get healthy, they've got to go down deep, they've got to spread, they've got to be able to provide the rest of the plant with the nutrients and to grow the plant. So first year you get one shoot to the wire. Second year you get 2 arms, but you've got to have water while that's happening, so you've got the energy and the nutrients and the water to grow those arms. The next year after that you've got 2 cordons. The next year after that you've got other shoots.
Yep.
And the year after that you've got enough fruit to throw at each other. And in the 5th year you've got a crop. During that period of time, you've got to have water, and you've got to make sure there's even growth and it's healthy growth. After that, we reduce the amount of water we do, because the smaller the berry, without being too small, you get your flavour and colour from the skin to juice ratio.
Yeah, okay.
If you've got lots of juice inside, then it's filtered.
Yeah.
If you've got the right balance of skin and juice, you get terrific colours, and you get terrific flavours, and healthy. A larger skin area, it protects it from other mildews and diseases.
Yeah. So by the sounds of it, there's a fair bit that goes on within the vineyard, upskilling and everything, and coming from footy. From now to the next 10, 20 years, where do you sort of see Mortimer's Wines going? Where would you like it to go?
I'll tell you where I think it'll go. We've dabbled in export.
Yep.
But realistically, to supply export, we need to buy fruit in.
Yeah.
So what we're aiming to do is make our the fruit that we have here sold through our cellar door and to our wine club. We need to climb the ladder in quality, and we need to be premium. A premium brand that people will be prepared to pay their $60 or $70 a bottle for, knowing that it's quality and it's something for a special occasion. Having said that, when Daniel, the next generation takes over, if he decides to invest in more land or to lease more vines, then that's part of the business plan. I can assist with that.
Yep.
And we'll see where it heads.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much scope for growth, isn't there? Especially when you got your domestic market and you sell it just out the front near the road there. And also you led into tariffs before, selling wine overseas and everything. Has that hurt the business at all?
No, it hasn't. We've always was paid for the wine before it left the shores here.
Yep.
And we didn't have, we bought in the fruit, so therefore we didn't have surplus vineyards to try to shift our fruit from.
Yeah, true.
So we actually handled it really well. A bit of good fortune there. And the way things are going with the barley operation, the tariffs on barley just at the moment, if it develops back to wine, I know the Chinese are hanging out for Australian wine. They love Australian wine. We were the biggest exporter to China as a country. and I know that that'll just pick up from where it left off, and we'll be able to grow that part of our business on the same basis.
Well, it's looking like India's middle to lower class is growing up and expanding out as well, and they're looking to put their money somewhere, and the image of what Australia has within their agricultural sector is just fantastic for that product to go right in there.
Yeah, and India, very industrious nation, in that they have parcels of land up in the northern part of India towards the Himalayas that are just perfect, cool climate, grape growing regions, and they're getting some Italians and French in to help design and grow vineyards. They've got a massive population, so it'll work, and they'll do well. But wine is enhanced by age. Until they get age about them, then we'll still have a very good reason to sell wines to India as well as China. Yeah,
definitely. And throughout the industry, we know a fair bit about your vineyards now, but there's some struggles, and one of the biggest ones, being a family farm, is succession. You've obviously sort of started to shift into succession for your boys and your family. How does that look like for you, and what does the landscape look like?
Well, I'm giving myself a 5-year plan. That'll take me till the day I'm 70, so I'm 65 at the moment. We've got a 1-year plan first, and that is introducing Daniel into the viticulture and into the wine making and the distribution and all the other aspects of the business, and then we'll see how he handles it after the 12 months. And then if it's going as we hope it goes, then we can put more energy into it, and we can expand our catch, if you like, of what we can supply and who we can supply, and then that'll lead to us reconsidering whether we purchase more land or whether we lease more vines, or what's going to substantiate us building the business going forward.
Right. Yeah, it's just like it's behind the scenes sort of thing of what family succession is. And I don't know, have you heard the $100 billion goal that we all want to get to, but is that going to be at the detriment of family farmers, and hopefully sort of bolstering that out and educating people to start now with their succession, no matter how early or young your kids are?
Yeah, there's two things. First of all, succession planning has had to happen for the 200 odd years Australia's been going, and it's difficult for a farmer, a physical worker, who works day and night, to hand over to someone. Having said 100%. That, if you hand it over under in good circumstances to someone you trust or to someone you educate, then that's got to be easier for you. The other option these days, and you've seen it many times in the past, a farmer has 4 sons. The property he hasn't got doesn't lend itself to splitting 4 ways, and so there has to be succession planning with the agreements of those who don't go into that plan, and it's not an easy thing to do. We've got it nailed where we are. All the other boys are equally interested in Daniel enhancing their stake in Mortimer's Wines, and being paid as a director to do that. And we've had some very sound advice on that area. But the same thing, a farmer likes being on his tractor, and he likes cleaning out the shed, and he likes going to the markets and that sort of thing. So if it's in friendly circumstances and you've had input into it, then it's not a difficult thing to do.
Absolutely, well put as well. You still going to markets then? Orange local here?
Yes, we do. Well, we do night markets here. You mean grape night markets? Yeah. Orange does night markets in Food Week and also the Wine Festival. Very successful. It's really well run, and and all the wineries and the food places all turn up together. It's a fantastic event. If anyone hasn't been to one, you really need to go to one.
Absolutely. And to cap off this episode, what would be one piece of farms advice you'd like to pass on, or you'd like the listeners to get out of this episode?
Farming advice, it's the advice that I just mentioned that I was given. The best fertiliser for your agricultural setup, for your vines or for whatever you're doing in agriculture, is your shadow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cheers to that.
Cheers. All the best. Thank you.
That was good. So wherever you listen to this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another one in the future. This Farms Advice episode does not stop here. Come and join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, and even join our Facebook group. Go to farmsadvice.com.au for more on this episode and spread the hashtag FarmsAdvice to your mates. If you can leave a review on Apple or Spotify, that will let other farmers find us too. But until then, see you next Tuesday.